Let me take you from the last statement which you read now. When our debts were forgiven, let me put it that way, or cancelled, where we reconciled, we had to start all over again. Okay. It seems Nigeria has not learned any lessons from there, where we saw how burdening, with the weight of carrying the burden of debt stock, and right now it's been rising over the years, been increasing over the years. Yeah. Nigeria has not learned the lessons yet.
I think a couple of things are wrong in itself. When a country as big as us, the bulk of our revenue earnings still come 90% from oil, in spite of the noise we made over the year on diversification. Oil still remains the mainstay. And you know how volatile that is. The moment anything happens in international markets, impacts on oil. And also, when you look at devaluation as well, and the weakening of the naira also impacts on that. So part of the challenge we have is this oil thing. And the governance structure we are running as well is not healthy for the kind of country that we are running. He said that you want to run parliamentary, you want to run through federalism, but the one that you have, that states always have to go cap in hand every month to Abuja, that puts a whole lot of pressure on the economy in itself. So when you look at the debt burden, for example, part of the things you'll be looking at is, you know, a lot of economists, even the finance minister, they'll be saying our debt to GDP ratio is okay, it's still about 18%, 20%. But the key question they are not asking is, our debt ratio is increasing at an abysmal rate faster than our GDP is growing. Our GDP still remains on the single digits, while our debt ratio is on its double digits. So it's rising beyond the speed of your GDP. So that's what puts you at a disadvantage, which means there was a while back we just came out of recession, and when you look at the debt profile, debt ratio at that particular point in time, running from over 20% as far back as close to 30%, but while our size of our economy was shrinking. So the key issue is your GDP is shrinking. It's not growing at the same pace as the debt ratio. So when that is not happening, when there's a decline in economic activity and you are borrowing, and like the analysis you put up before, close to 60% is going into debt servicing. Debt servicing.
Yeah,
so
and it's even getting higher now.
It's going to get higher. Yeah. It's going to get higher because the devaluation of the naira is also a key. When you are borrowing internationally, and you are depending on a commodity that is about 90% of your earning, which is oil. Right now, we might be smiling because the Iran issue is down about $80 per barrel. We might be smiling.
And it could even get higher. And some are already expressing fears that, look, government might just go to sleep again.
Nobody builds an economy around a commodity.
Yeah.
Not the end product. We take the crude oil here out of this country.
All right, back to the issue you mentioned about external borrowing.
Yeah.
Finance Minister Kemi Adeosun has been saying, look, we're actually re-strategizing. We're going to focus more on external borrowing than domestic, borrowing, which is a lot higher.
A lot higher.
The external borrowing, the interest rates are manageable, and what have you. Now it's going to be 60 to 40% ratio. Doesn't it make sense, really, at the end of the day, since it's a lot cheaper?
It might be cheaper, but because part of some of the loans, like the $5.5 billion that's through Eurobond and all that, most of them are supposed to go to key capital projects and infrastructure, just like the rail projects, then over 25 roads that the Minister for Works, Power and Housing is banking on in 6 geographical regions. We had huge deficit in infrastructure. Yeah. Most of those funds are supposed to go into that. The concern for me really is how you ensure fiscal discipline and ensure the money gets into the right hands of people. You know, we've been talking about we are fighting corruption, but we have not been able to reform our civil service, which is the albatross that allows for corruption to thrive. We have not even automated processes. We have not made procurement issues become more transparent. and bidding process more transparent, and accountability. How are these funds? For example, we are talking about a rail project. You know, I was discussing on the forum, and some people were getting excited that we just signed, Rotimi Amechi just signed for the $6 billion. I think more like a private sector person. How many people will this rail project carry in a day? I think they were talking about the Lagos-Ibadan that is going to do 2 million passenger per year. And I'm like, are you guys kidding me? They will go into debt because of 2 million passengers a year, when just some rail lines in just a particular rail company in UK daily is lifting about 5 million passengers. So we're not thinking in terms of seeing governance like business, return on business. Can the project, what you are borrowing, can what you are using it to fund generate the kind of revenue
that
that will pay for it in itself? Or we're just borrowing for borrowing's sake, for political correctness, or we are borrowing to make an impression for upcoming election. So so some critical issues. I think when government is too much, we have a lot of deficit, we know. But we must create a situation where we can get the right people in. There are several people that manage rails all over the world. Several of them that you can bring into your country, and government can take its hands off and let the private sector drive this thing.
But won't that create another problem? I mean, if you get people from outside, at the end of the day, they are repatriating the profit and all of that outside of the country. How do you check that?
That's what I'm saying. It reduces pressure on all this borrowing issue. For example, look at the domestic borrowing. It's part of the problem where the MSMEs, SME cannot get access to cheap funds because they've been muzzled out of borrowing. So when the pressure of borrowing goes off government, you can focus on key issues like health, education, security. Right now, look at how much you are spending on infrastructure, but how much are you investing into the people themselves? Because creation of wealth in any economy is investment in your people.
In the people.
If you're not investing, infrastructure in itself alone is not going to create the wealth. It's going to enhance it, but the investment in the people. For example, rail system in China, the investment in rail was done to open up what? The industrial parks. Most of the people going through all this rail system were people that are going to industries and factories to work. So you can imagine how it's creating ease of life, ease of business, enhancing disposable income.
Because those rail projects were strategic in their location.
They were strategic in their location. But the thing is, what is the strategic financial benefits of the rail system we say we are running?
Or we're just creating rail from point A to point B without
what kind of rail are we even creating?
In other,
what kind of rail? Is it still locomotive?
All right, let's talk about state governments here, because if you look at part of this huge debt profile from the various states here and there, but if you look at states, although if you compare Lagos has the highest debt profile when it comes to, in comparative terms, to all the states. You can see some appreciable things in Lagos, but considering the other states and what is really going on and what you can see on ground, has there been real justification for all the monies that have been borrowed?
We have about 25 states that are practically solvent, they are not viable, that the IGR being generated from the state cannot even pay salaries. We have an over-bloated civil service in most of the states that are not productive. We are not even focusing on the issues of productivity. The states are not focusing on productivity. Fiscal discipline is another thing. The cost of governance in most of these states. There is no professionalism or productivity even in the civil service. The investments you will see state governors investing part of the budget on building new airports. Airports that are not viable. Airports that you already have maybe an alternate state that has an airport, and by road between those two states, maybe it's just about 20 kilometers and you're building an airport. A
state like Kaduna, for example, El-Rufai has been looking for this $300 million. Of course, his senators stopped it. They're like, it's not justifiable. What exactly do you need?
So the thing is this, we need to start asking these guys questions. The cost of governance in most of the states is a major issue. You will hear a governor saying, I've not received salary. How much is their salary compared to the cost of running their office day to day? So most of these states are not viable. And I think we need to start going in the path of true federalism. and this cap in hand every month.
And when it comes to true federalism, that's one thing so many Nigerians and politicians are still scared of. A lot of people say they don't understand what true federalism is. People have talked about restructuring. They say, well, restructuring means different things to different people. Restructuring means different things to people.
But so if you go the path of true federalism, it's clear.
But that's what the restructuring is all about.
Restructuring takes the shine off, or the true definition of true federalism, where every state has full control over its resources. You are independent and you can compete with each other, and the central government takes its hands out of the control of everything. Because what we are running presently is a unitary system that the center defines what happened. There are a lot of items on the exclusive list, for example.
All right, we have to leave it here right now. Gbenga Onitilo, thank you so much for coming on the program. Thank you very much. Thank you.